Now, this one is technically not due in yet. It only just came in the other day. There's other things ahead of it, but the customer's been ringing and asking we'll have a quick wee look at it because it only needs a set of brushes. So, we'll see if we can get this up and running nice and quick for him. This is an older Bosch grinder, the GWS 6/115. This is actually 1997, look. That's a brave age. That's at 27 years old. This one then became the 660, and I think the cheaper one now they do is a 750. Right, that's not a set of brushes. That's a little bit more complicated. Mind you, those brushes are just about worn out, but they're not the main problem. Something else badly wrong here. I'm hoping just a bearing. It is just a bearing, but it's done more damage than just that. Bearing's totally seized. As you can see from the rubbing on the armature here, it's been rattling around. Hasn't collapsed, it's still intact. So for it to move, it has to have burnt out the housing, which it has. So it's melted the inside of that. So now the bearing has a slack fit, so it's actually rattling around inside the housing. That's why it's rubbing here. Mind you, it is still working. Let's see, it'll be worth the housing. Stick in a new set of brushes, bearing, and see if we can get a housing for this thing. Right, don't have a body in stock, but they are still available. Only cost about €15. But I do have a second hand one. So that's what I'm actually going to use here instead. Stick on a second hand one instead. Keep it cheaper for the customer because it does need a few other wee bits. I have to swap everything over because this one was a 110. So can't use the same field. Get rid of that. Actually, you can even keep that. There's nothing wrong with it. Just change over the switch, just in case there's something wrong with this one. Probably is fine, but don't want to take the risk. Give that a general wee clean. I'll just change over the brush holders as well. Probably not essential, but the springs just look a little bit more rusted than this one here. That's alright. Give that a wee clean. That should do the job. It's just a matter of swapping everything over. Just try not to bend or snap any of these wires for the field because they're fairly fine. And so just keep the capacitor as well. A noise suppression capacitor, but we'll keep it on there. See, there's a different one on this one. So there's an earth lead going back to this one. Straighten these out. Try to keep them as straight as possible, so it makes it easier to reinstall them. Tiny little wires in the field. Just try not to break them. He says as I start to bang it off the table. Just needs to be tapped out. Some of these wires are shorter than the others. Try to put it back in the same way. Three out of four. Drop that in. I'll just get this air deflector to hold it on. I think it has leads okay. Looks alright. Of course it has to come out that way. Rid of that. Drop that on. Re-engage an actual lever for the button. Make sure that's in place. Leave the lead to last actually. The best thing about using second-hand parts is everything is actually molded already to where it needs to go. So you can just follow the shape of the wires to see where it goes. The leads for the brushes should be right beside the brushes, and they're the short ones. And then the leads for the switch, one has to pass over here. These are the longer ones. That looks about right. Leave that side, get rid of that. Leave the lead to last. And we'll just check what these are like. That's actually gone too. So we'll change that bearing. Give this head a quick wee clean out. Install the original bearing. Just open on one side and sealed on the other. So this side on the motor is sealed, but the other side's in the gearbox anyway, so that can be opened. Just goes to show they last an awful lot longer. That's gone now. Clean them out. The head is fine. This bearing here is okay. Head will be okay. Just two bearings needed. It's a 608 bearing up this side and a 607 down this side. This little rubber sleeve ring just goes on the outside of this bearing and just centers it on this plastic air deflector. Seems extremely flimsy and not that great, but sometimes looks can be deceiving. That's the same setup they've had since before 1998, even till today. All these grinders all work the exact same way and never have a problem with this here bearing on the top, unless the bearing actually fails itself, but it rarely ever does. It's a very reliable setup, nice and simple and to the point. Tighten that up, and that should hopefully sort the problem out. Just for the hell of it, I'll put a wee bit of extra grease on there, because because it is quite old. A wee dab, mind you. Now, did this stick a sleeve? I don't think it did, but we'll just check to make sure. It did. I'm missing something else, or at least he is. There was a little rubber sleeve. The bottom of it's still there, but the rest of it's gone. So we'll need one of them too. One of these boyos. That'll continue rattling around inside and destroy this housing if you don't have this wee rubber sleeve on. These are good because if the bearing does fail, it takes the heat away from the plastic and stops it from melting the body as easily. But if you're like this man, you keep running it on anyway and not changing the bearing, it'll eventually eat through the two. Wrong screw. These are the screwdrivers Weehaw sent me on a few weeks ago. Absolutely loving these things. If I ever recommended a set of screwdrivers for rough sort of work, check them things out. These are the Weehaw mechanical screwdrivers, the purple ones. Solid all the way through, all the way up to the hilt up here. You can actually hit these with a hammer. They're so robust, it's unreal. Plus, they're so friggin' heavy. They're a mad weight. Really, really good quality. And the actual flats on them are brilliant. Couldn't recommend them things enough now. Use them all the time here. The last thing then is one new set of brushes. Now, hopefully, that sorts this out. Also put on a new grommet as well, just to neaten it up. Doesn't sound like brand new, it does sound like a machine from 1997, but still, for a few bearings, brushes, and a second hand housing, it'll be grand. She's up and running again. It might not be working absolutely perfectly, but it is working, and we'll keep this man working for a while longer. That's her.